How do you fight such a savage as the Twins and White Sox? With heart, faith, and steel. In the end, there can be only one. We're going to get into 3 battles, multiple people, and in the end, there can be only one, or in the case of the bullpen, 2 players making it. You can get the movie reference. Comment below. I'm hoping you all got it, but who will be the one to come out ahead with the quickening and all the knowledge that goes within? Find out our thoughts on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. That's Justin. I'm Jeff. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. And also to say we have your team, the Cleveland Guardians, covered every day. Having said all of that, and again, comment about random... I don't think it's an obscure movie, but another one that went over Justin's head, much like my Streets of Fire referencing from last week. I'm just going to keep throwing these random 80s movies that I loved that maybe not everyone saw in throughout. But we got things to talk about. Let's get into... So do you want to start with catcher, outfielder, or reliever?
Well, I would say catcher is probably a done deal. We have to figure out how Cam Gallagher is going to fit on the roster. After today's moves, you had Xzavion Curry sent down to AAA. Nick Mikolajchak reassigned minor league camp. We'll get into that in a few minutes too. But essentially, there's 2 open spots. So Sam Hentges is going to start the year in the IL. No, most likely Cody Morris. I would say let's start with the bullpen actually, because Tim Herron I think has a spot locked up. Right? I think this bullpen is. Yeah, it needs to. He's pitched fine this spring too. Everyone has praised the work he's done. He's still developing, and he's got a good fastball. I think they're pretty pleased with him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cody Morris starts the year on the 60-day IL. That gives them a spot temporarily. This will be the 3rd straight year that Cody Morris opens the season on the 60-day IL. It's not what you want. Not a streak you want. I mean,
do we think he's going to miss that much time?
Well, if you retroactive it, I think it can work. I don't know when you can start retroactiving. I know you can because the Dodgers already did it with Walker Buehler, who's going to be out for the season. So you can retroactively place guys on the 60-day IL, and he has not made a spring appearance yet. So they can do it from the first date that it's allowed to that move to be made. I have to go back and look. If you look at whatever day Walker Buehler was put on, I think that's the first day it was allowed because the Dodgers already did it. So you would do that and then assume that he's going to, you can still bring him back, whatever it's retroactive to 60 days. He has to go to the minors and, ramp back up, and then you figure it out from there. But that should open
to
spot.
The MLB one, they have to be on it for a minimum of 60 days.
Right. He could be on it, and spring training can count. So I said, let me find the Dodgers page because the Dodgers did it, like I said, a while.
I know they put a bunch of guys on, but I don't think any of them necessarily count towards retroactive status. I'm not sure if you can do the retroactive with the 60-day DL. I know you can with the 10.
You know who knows this answer is our buddy Kinsman, who will probably comment this. Let us know.
I don't think you can on the 60. I think you only can on the 10 because if you look at the MLB rules, they mention retroactively for 10-day disabled list. There's no mention in the 60-day. So I think retroactive only works with a 10-day DL because it's a shorter period of time.
This says, according to MLB trade rumors, it says it's worth pointing out that the 60 days don't start until opening day, which is March 30th. So actually, so there is no retroactive day this year. So, that's a good question. I don't know. I guess you can't retroactive him. So I don't know if he'll miss 60 days. That would put him if he go.
I think the Dodgers just like Fire Eyes and Buehler, all of them weren't going to play, so they just put him on up the spots.
I thought that's the first day they could do it, so I assume that's what it was. But that's a new rule. So, what is 60 days from March 30th? So that's April, May. So we're talking that would be June, right?
June, before he can even pitch.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if he's going to be out that long. I mean, he hasn't started throwing bullpens yet, so but it also depends on the role too. Like if they intend to build him out as a starter again this year, then yeah, I think he could be 60 days because he needs time to ramp up. But if he's going to be a reliever, then no, it's not 60 days. So it really depends on what they've decided for Cody Morris's role. But either way, Tim Herron's on the 40, so that's a lock, right?
Yeah.
So it's really the second bullpen spot for Sam Hentges while he's out, or for Cody Morris too. So Tim Herron makes it. I guess the easy move is to put Gaddis in the bullpen because he's already.
I just think that. Yeah, I think when we got the other two battles that we're going to talk about,
you got to say
those. That's where the room is. I don't think there's room to add Kelly. And listen, you and I both like Hunter Gaddis. You and I both think that he's probably a future reliever. The fastball is kind of the show me pitch for that change, which is one of the best changes in the entire system. It's a true weapon against lefties or righties. So I think you're okay putting him in there. That's probably eventually where he's going to go. They have all those young high-end arms charging up through the minors anyways. I think that you kind of put him there, and that could be his long-term home, or it could be a short-term home for the time being. But I think the deck is too stacked against Michael Kelly, unless, honestly, it comes down to, we'll get into a little bit more. Do they make another Will Benson-esque trade? Do they sit there and trade a Tenya for a lesser value? Do they trade a Ty Freeman for a lesser value if they feel like he is not?
I think we know
guy who's a spot.
I think we really know who the guy is here. It's Richie Palacios.
Yeah, but they're probably gonna, if they trade Richie Palacios, that means Roman Quinn made the team, so then they need two spots. So I guess we should switch into that conversation. You and I both think, like I said, Kelly is a great story. He's an older player. He's missed bats throughout his career. Phillies last year. He might get an opportunity at some point this year. Someone gets hurt, that opens the 48 a little more. But moving to the outfield, I don't know if Palacios has any trade value. They might at this point in time just try to pass him through waivers. I don't think he's netting you anything, because there are serious questions if he has any defensive position. He may not get through waivers. If I'm honest, if I was a team, I would certainly give him a try. He hasn't really had a huge extended look, but if they're letting him go, then that means Roman Quinn makes a team, and then you have to make another move. So,
yeah, that's tricky. I mean, yeah, the only guys that are really on the fringes here are Richie and I guess Tyler Freeman, but I just can't see them moving on from Freeman right now. Maybe Tena is the guy they would. I don't know. I think they like him a little too much, and they still think they need depth.
I think the other problem too, it's like if you want to make a Benson type move, you're not getting that with Tena. Like you might get that with Freeman. You're not getting that with Tena. Just doesn't have much trade value.
It doesn't have.
So you also have to. Yeah, you have to look for the guy who has some trade value to do a Benson-esque move. And you look at those depth guys on the roster, it's like, unless you're going to trade one of the pitchers like Curry, or unless you're going to, flip one of these relievers, but then that just makes the relief issue a bigger issue. So it does feel like when you go through and you just look, and it's like, when you look at infielders who are in the minors, you've got Martinez, Tena, Rocchio, Freeman, and Brito. And if you feel like Rocchio is coming on fast, then Freeman's just even more under the gun, and he could net you something, and that's something. I just feel like Tena's going to net you Owen Miller netted, which is nothing so far.
I'm telling you, that trade is going to be Owen Miller for Owen Miller. It's going to be. They're going to get to the end of the season. The Brewers will be like, yeah, actually, you could take Owen Miller back. That's how it's going to go.
It's going to be. Owen Miller's now a center fielder, so they're going to. And I haven't looked at his spring stats, but it's going to be Owen Miller for Corbin Burns, is what I thought you'd say.
Oh, well, yes, that's obviously a fair trade.
But they seem to really like Jason Billis. You and I thought he might be.
You know what? That's another one we didn't talk about. Jason Billis, I think, will be a guy that goes odd man off. So they seem to like him as a bullpen option, but I would be stunned if they didn't try to pass him through waivers at this point. Just because, unless he already got sent to minor league camp. I think if he was opening the year in the bullpen, maybe, but.
And the one thing with that is they're a late team in the claiming process, so those other teams weren't all that interested before that, so you got a chance of having him pass through. So I guess if you let go of Palacios and Billos, there's Quinn and Gallagher, we assume, but still, I mean, it's tight. Like, I would not be shocked if there was also, I would just keep in the back of your mind the idea of another Will Benson-esque trade where they kick the can down the road. And again, I mean, I think Tyler Freeman's a major league player. I know I've been a little rough on him of late. I think he's a major league player, but I also would not hesitate in a second if I could get a comp B pick for him, which was what they originally drafted him with. And that's not a knock on him. That's just
in this draft.
Yeah, and this draft is looking very deep, very good.
I can't wait for more draft,
but the thing is, like, comp B picks have really been undervalued in trades through years. So, like, that might actually be an equal value for a guy who could come in and help the right team. Maybe I'll go and look at the list and see what teams make sense for that. But
Seattle?
Speaking of things, potentially, though, Seattle hoards those picks. Jerry DiPoto, he tries to add more, not less. He's one of the few people who values him. But speaking of things of value, our good friends over at Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. I was playing this just again today because I really enjoy this game. Like I said, I own the NFL. Well, I'm sorry, not NFL. The baseball, football, and basketball versions. The baseball one is the hardest. It has the most depth. You have to have a majors and a minors. You have to set your team. Now, what I like managing, or I like being the GM more than I like being the manager. So, like, when I play OOTP, I might set what the lineups are, but I'm not playing every single game. I do a lot of that. I just sim. And what I like about Ultimate Pro GM on my phone is you're playing GM. I'm not setting a lineup. I'm not going into the individual games. You can watch the games play out if you want, see what's happening, but you have no control. It's like you're the GM. It is that experience. It's fun scouting guys, drafting them, putting the trades together and slowly improving your team, improving your whole situation. It's got kind of like the RPG story mode in it where you're sitting back and you have to develop all your facilities as well. So I really enjoy it. And by the way, again, I'm going to set up and see, since I have a different name, if I can take first, second, and third in our competition and walk away with a cool grand, because it is a combined grand in money. And from what I've seen talking and from other hosts posting, like, this money is mine. Like, no one's come close to my win total. I don't think anyone, I think I've already won the 650. I think it's probably coming to my door tomorrow because they might as well just give up. So I'm just going to try to get the other amounts. There's no point. I have taken their lunch.
Wow. Pity the fool.
Pity the fool.
Well, you may be taking everybody's lunch there. You could take back control of your ticket buying process without having any anxiety. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful, Jeff. Gametime is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, plays near you. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over tickets and get hyped for all the fun you're going to have at the event. They have flash deals and last-minute tickets. Guardians is already sold. Guardians open day is already sold out. They have standing room only tickets, but standing room only is not your thing. You can head to the Gametime app, and they will have tickets for you. They're easy to find. They have images of each seat view. I know I really value what view I'm going to get from a seat when I'm buying it. They have a low price guarantee, event cancellation protection. Gametime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget money planning in advance. They have tickets right up to the day of the event. So if you want to go to the home opener on April 7th, you can get tickets on April 6th, literally, and still go. They have flash deals on seats for all events near you. And the Gametime guarantee means you will always get the best price. So if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So snag tickets without stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
And I realize I am a terrible host. I forgot to say, go to the Ultimate GM. Use the promo code LOCKEDON, all capitals, to get your free 100% bonus in the shop. And download the app because it's a lot of fun.
Do you have any last second thoughts on the roster? I mean, we're a week away, so we can probably still speculate a little bit longer. But I think ideally it's going to be Heron and Gaddis in the bullpen. Gallagher is the catcher, and then I don't know. I could see Quinn making the roster.
So I know some people have said I still think Melbus has a chance. I think he's probably better than Cam Gallagher, but they have really telegraphed Gallagher. I mean, Tito saying they tried to trade for him. They wanted to add him. Tito loves the crusty vet at catcher. So I think that's set. And then, I think they can't add a third guy. And I do think it's going to be Quinn. And plain and simply, go back to when we failed to land Sean Murphy. What did I say about this organization that they do not have? The one thing that they lack is elite speed. Like that is Oakland wanted the elite speed guy. Cleveland doesn't have that elite speed prospect. They don't really have anyone. I don't think they have anyone who's a 65 right now amongst their top prospects. Like 60, maybe 65. There's definitely no one who's a 70. It's what they lack throughout the entire system. What is Roman Quinn? He's an 80 on top of being, a 60 grade defender at all three outfield spots, enough arm to be able to handle right. Won't be necessarily the best there, but he's actually, I think his arm's pretty decent now that if I think about Savant data, but he's a strong defender. He runs really well. He has completely changed his launch angle. I'm moving towards the camp where I think he makes this team, and I think Palacios is DFA'd because again, I don't necessarily think he has enough value. So that's
DFA
where it is. I just don't. Where's the trade value? Who's going to trade for a guy without a positional?
You could get something for him. It might. You probably will get less than the guy they got for Benson, but I think. I
think you get less than Anthony Castro.
Yeah,
had more value a year ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're not getting Ross Carver. I think Carver.
And the reason I think we're both moving that direction too is because they don't care if Roman Quinn doesn't get an at bat for a week. They would care if Richie Palacios didn't get an at bat. But the thing is, I don't think you can maintain Palacios' spot in the 40 at the same time of maintaining Roman Quinn. And also the one thing else they also don't have is roster fodder. So Gallagher and Quinn both later in the season serve as guys you can DFA to create roster spaces later in the season. So, and
we said there's only like maybe 3 to 4 guys that would add at the end of the year who are like absolutely have to be 40-man added. You look at Rosario and those 2 guys, hey, 3 spots right there. But yeah, I think Quinn brings an element they completely lack. He's a better defender. And if you want, especially with the importance of speed and stealing bases, Roman Quinn has a lot more value than Richie Palacios right now.
Especially this season with the new rules, and you could pinch run for Josh Naylor, you could pinch run for Josh Bell, you can pinch run for Mike Zunino. You don't got to pinch run for anybody else in this team besides those guys. Roman Quinn is that guy because you don't want to do with Arias,
and
Palacios is not as good a runner.
And he's the perfect guy in extra innings to pinch run for whoever starts at second because he's almost automatically going to take third. Like he is lightning in a bottle. He's one of the fastest guys in baseball. He will get that.
And they don't want to put Quan in center if they don't have to. Yes. So that gives them somebody they can put in center field if Miles Straw needs a day off and they don't want to use Quan there. So
or if Brendan's playing in right and they don't want to do it. So it's like it just I think it's happening. I think we agree on that. Should we go Mikolajchak next?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. So this is super quick because we got to move on to our next topic. But Nick Mikolajchak is seeking a second opinion on his sprained UCL. I almost said UCLA. I don't know if he could sprain a whole college, but if you could, UCLA
everything at UCLA pitcher wise. So
they could. Good. But this is unfortunate for Mikolajchak because usually a second opinion is not a great sign. So I hope he's not getting Tommy John, but. Second opinion usually is one of those things that is a red flag about that. So, all right, Jeff, let's we must hate ourselves.
Miles Straw hitting leadoff. I'm kidding.
Are you doing it already? Okay. I really don't like talking about this topic is lineup construction because I think it's absolute hogwash. For the most part, I think it's very meaningless. There is like a little bit there, but it's like at the same time, just get your best players the most at bats, and that's all you got to do. That's really not much else to it. And a lot of people love to agonize over this. And I get it. It's fun. It's like a mock draft sort of thing. So this should be up to Jeff's alley. But I do at the end of the day, it's not as consequential as people make it out to be. But because it does come up and because we are a week away from the season, we're going to talk about the ideal Guardians lineup. Jeff, do you want to hate yourself first, or do you want me to show how much I hate myself first?
Well, I'll just say this. Like, I'm going to approach this the same way I approach OTP or Ultimate GM. When I set a lineup, I'm going to look at split data. I'm going to look at players. I'm also going to use the most advanced and up-to-date thinking, which is the most important spot in your lineup. Your best hitter should hit 2. So I'm going to use that logic. And then I'm also going to move guys up and down if they hit lefties or righties better. Like, I think that is something important. Like, Mike Zunino is going to hit 5th for me against lefties and 8th against righties. Like, that's just the way of it for me because Zunino absolutely destroys left-handed pitching traditionally. He would hit 4th if I knew he was going to hit how he's hit before against lefties. Like, he has been, He was literally the best hitter in baseball 2 years ago against left-handed pitching in terms of power. So, I'm going to look at stuff like that. It's not going to be maybe necessarily traditional. I will say I was kind of interesting. I didn't realize how big the split was on Stephen Kwan last year. It's pretty a 50-point split in runs created plus. That means 5 derivations. It's huge. He was like against right-handers, he murders them. If you want old school, 303 batting average, 386 on base, 425 slugging, and 811 OPS against lefties. 285, 324, 315, 639. So nearly a 200-point different OPS. I didn't realize that. Did you realize that?
I knew he was a little bit worse against lefties last year. I did not realize it was a significant split.
So what's funny is, like I said, 80, and for those, again, people get mad. Runs created plus takes all of the data, and 100 is average. And then if you're 10 percentage points below, you're a 90. So what's funny is he's an 85 and a 123. Ahmed is a 123, and then an 84. I'm sorry. So Steven is a 135, 85. Ahmed is an 84, 123. These guys should be flipping in the lineup.
I agree.
It's like, so my leadoff hitter against righties is Kwan. Against lefties, it's Ahmed. And then I got Jose too. I got to kind of figure out, I'm probably putting Andres 3 based on last year. I know not everyone's going to agree with that. And he's another guy who, his splits last year were a 158 and a 135. Those are fantastic. He wasn't even allowed to hit lefties at the start of the year, but the data was still excellent with him. So just going through, that's my 1, 2, 3. What are your thoughts before we move beyond those first 3 spots?
Ideally, I don't think Cleveland actually has a leadoff hitter that I like a lot. By default, I would stay with Stephen Kwan just because of the track record and the skill set. Even against lefties, I know it's not ideal, but he is the best fit right now. If I stay away from Kwan and at leading off, I know people will say, why would you move Kwan from leadoff? Kwan, to me, I'm going to go backwards here. Kwan, because I agree with you. Jose Ramirez should be hitting second there. I know this, it's back a few ways, but Sky Kalkman, who wrote a great article, this is back in 2012, or I think the original article was 2009 actually, but updated in 2012 on Beyond the Box Score, called Optimizing Your Lineup by the Book. Your number 3 hitter comes up to bat most often with 2 outs. Like that's usually the case. What happens with your number 2 hitter, especially to start the first inning. So I don't like Jose Ramirez hitting third because I don't want the guy coming up with 2 outs. So in a picture perfect world for Cleveland, everybody, all those things say that Jose should hit second. And I agree. So Jose second. I would rather have Kwan third, because if your number 3 hitter is going to come up with the bases empty most of the time, Kwan is a good guy to hit there because he gets on base a lot, right? So that extends the inning for you to get to your cleanup guy, and then it gives your cleanup guy somebody on when he comes up. So Josh Bell comes up with a runner on. If you have Stephen Kwan in front of him, he extends the inning. It's great if Kwan leads off and gets on base, but then you have, the double play king and Ahmed Rosario hitting second. That's a problem.
That's why I have him hitting 1 when against lefties.
Right. Well, I could get on board with that. I agree against that. I guess against right-handers, there's no ideal fit. Like, I would even consider putting Jose Ramirez in leadoff. I know the lack of runners on is probably not ideal for that, but the name of the game is get your best hitters the most at bats. So 1 or 2 for Jose, I think, is ideal. But I would rather have Kwan hitting third, just because, like I said, he can extend the inning if he comes up with 2 outs, because the book says your number 3 hitter comes up with 2 outs more often than not. So let the guy who is best at getting on base keep the inning going. So I don't know. Ahmed versus lefties leading off is fine. Jose 2, Kwan 3, although even though it's not ideal against lefties, I don't really have, I guess against right-handers, you can put Jose first. And I'd be willing to move Jimenez up to 2 as well behind Jose or Kwan against righties. So that's where I'm
like
at.
I said, I'm doing the platoon, and then I'll explain where they go the rest of the time. Then I'm doing Jose, and then Andres, just because I want to get my best hitters up. And right now, those against lefties, that's it. But first, before we get into the 4, 5, 6 and the 7, 8, 9, let's take our break and talk about our good friends over at FanDuel. And the tournament is heating up, and there is no better place to go than FanDuel.com. You know them, you love them. They're America's #1 sports book. And that's because right now they're giving new customers a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up today to claim your no sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. So for me, if I'm coming in at 4, Josh Bell, again, for his career, has a 120 against righties. So he's definitely my 4 hitter against righties. And probably against lefties as well. He's probably just number 4. My 5th hitter against righties. I talked about the disparity for Stephen Kwan. Josh Naylor says, hold my adult beverage. 139 against righties, and they are 140. So he just destroys righties, but a 53 against lefties. He really should not be playing against lefties at all. So Naylor at 5 is absolutely deadly. I might even consider flipping him and Bell. But for now, I'm going to go Bell, then Naylor. And then when you're facing lefties, I'm actually going to put Quan at 5, which I know is non-conventional. But since I'm having him hit leadoff against righties, against lefties, I still want to get him at bats. I still believe in him, even if the data isn't there. So then my 6th hitter against lefties is Mike Zunino, because again, he 2 years ago was the best hitter in baseball against lefties in terms of power. And then against righties, in that 6th spot, I'm putting Oscar Gonzalez.
Yeah, it's fair. I agree with you. I mean, you could put Naylor 4 against righties and he and Bell against lefties. The thing is, Naylor needs to sit against lefties. There's no with Josh Bell here. There's no need to put him in the lineup against left-handers, and that's why I said the other day there's still an open spot for this team for a bat. Like if you can chop Roman Quinn spot and turn that into a bat eventually to platoon with Naylor and keep Bell in the lineup, which you will. But yeah, I agree. So I could see Naylor against righties hitting 4th and Bell 5th, and then against lefties, Bell 4th, Naylor out of the lineup. 5th, I think I like Oscar 5th against lefties a little bit. And I mean, Jimenez was fine against lefties last year, but I'm not inclined to put him. I don't know. I guess you could put him 5th. He didn't have any splits there. I think you can be fine. I would go Jimenez, actually. More contact, the same amount of aggression for Jimenez's on base percentage last year. A lot of it was buoyed by hit by pitch, whichever one. That's why everybody's concerned about regression with him, right?
The hit by pitch is remarkably consistent. Like that is literally the stat that translates the best from the college to the pro game from the minor. Like that is guys who get hit by pitches get hit by pitches. Like it's just it's where you set up.
So I could leave him 5th and put Oscar 6th. Or I guess you would have Jimenez 6th against righties because you're having Naylor 5th against righties. So against righties, Jimenez 6th and then against lefties hit him 5th.
Didn't you have Jimenez up against righties? Didn't you have him in your top 3?
No, I didn't really settle on it. I said I could be persuaded. I don't know. Against righties, I would just be fine. Yeah, against righties, I mean, you could lead off Jose and put Jimenez 2nd and Quan 3rd, I guess. So that way. But yeah, I would have Oscar 5th against lefties, and then I guess I just keep Oscar 5th then if I move Jimenez up. It's either Oscar or Jimenez are hitting 5th for me against lefties, and then righties it's Naylor. And then after that, I'm okay, like what you said, putting a med lead off against lefties, but if not, 7 is fine for him, and then Zunino Straw rounding out the order for me.
So for 7, 8, 9 for me, just to go out against right-handers. So I've got I'm gonna put Ahmed at 7 because I got him there. The 8th spot then goes to Zunino, and the 9th spot to Straw. That's speed at the bottom. And then against lefties, the 7th spot is going to be Oscar, which is kind of nice to have him there. Like just the way that extends your lineup down. The 8th spot is going to be Gabby Arias or Will Brennan, whoever you're having platoon with Naylor. And then again, 9th spot is Straw. And again, think about how nice that sounds. So I'm saying, Oscar in 7, and it's not, none of it is illogical. People may not love it. It's a little weird, but like, so that total. So if you're like, well, what does that end up looking like? Okay, so my right-handed lineup is Quan, Jose, Andres, Bell, Naylor, Oscar, Ahmed, Zunino, Straw. My left-handed lineup goes Ahmed, Jose, Andres, Bell, Quan, Zunino, Gonzalez, Gabriel Arias, Will Brennan, Straw.
Yeah, I didn't mention Brennan, but wherever I would have Oscar, whether it's 6 or 7, I mean Brennan there. Yeah, I would probably say against lefties, I'll go with your take on Ahmed there. So I would go Ahmed, Jose, Quan, Bell, Oscar, or I'd flip Jimenez and Oscar. I put Oscar 6, Nino, Ahmed, and then I'd put Straw at 9. And then against righties, I got to find some way to get Brennan in there against right-handers instead of Oscar. But you can literally swap in and out those things. Against righties, though, I don't know. I guess it's a little bit tougher. You can leave Quan at the top or Jose up there. I don't know. As long as Jose is hitting second, and I don't know, you can fit in, and Ahmed's not hitting second, and he's only hitting at the top of the order against lefties, I'm fine. But we all know it's not going to happen. We already know what the lineup's going to be. It's not a question. Like, you could bet it's going to be Quan, Ahmed, Jose, Bell, Naylor, Gonzalez, Jimenez, Zunino, and Straw, and everyone is going to lose their you-know-what on Twitter on the open day lineup. So that is what it is.
I was going to just say, I know we had another topic here. I think we should just talk about the broadcast editions, and then if we do a bonus show, we can say if what we were talking about for segment 3 with college talk. Just something to throw out there.
Yeah, the Guardians Bally Sports Great Lakes announced they're going to have some, not changes, but some additions to the broadcast team, which you might think that's strange because they're going into bankruptcy, and the Guardians, Bally Sports Great Lakes is one of the channels they are trying to drop.
Because they lose more than they make. So
yeah.
When you lose money, let's bring in more people.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to hear the reasoning behind it before I judge it, but it certainly, raises an eyebrow without context. But so former Indian Pat Tabler, my mom was a big Pat Tabler fan, not for his baseball skills, but whatever.
My buddy Tom somewhere is doing backflips.
He was with the Blue Jays previously, so he will be part of the broadcast team this year, along with former backup catcher Chris Jimenez, who you might remember from, I think he was on the 2016 roster before when Jan Gomes was hurt.
Wasn't he the one who gave all the comments in Zach Meisel's piece on Grady Sizemore? Like, instead of having any interview it was all Chris Jimenez, right?
I thought that was, maybe it was, I can't remember who it was. I thought it was Josh Barfield, but I could be wrong. Or that was the Fangraphs piece, maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was the Fangraphs piece was Barfield, and I think Jimenez was the Meisel piece.
Yeah, and then Ellis Burks will be part of that too. Ellis Burks didn't spend a lot of time here, but he was pretty good for a couple of years. Yeah, he was the lone offensive bright spot in that 2003 team, which he unfortunately was a part of the end of his career. That 2003 team was pretty bad. So Pat Tabler will join Matt Underwood in the booth for select games, and then him and Jimenez. Almost
greatest hitters with the bases loaded is Pat Tabler based on the comments.
Oh, Pat Tabler. Okay. Wow. Oh, I remember that now. Yeah. So Chris Jimenez and Ellis Burks will be part of the rotation with the Guardians live crew before games. So yeah, new faces, new voices on the Guardians broadcast on Bally Sports Great Lakes. They're still keeping everybody who previously was a part of the broadcast. No changes there. I
wonder if there's any degree of like the MLB takeover. Like, if we know this is going away, like, didn't Ellis Burks, I felt like at one point in time, worked for the MLB? Like, is there any degree of like, could this tie to that, or is this just like, hey, let's make everyone have the classic, we're going to move you to a part-time and hire so many part-time workers because that's cheaper than full-time?
That is my thinking, but I mean, you don't know that for sure, so I don't want to comment. But MLB has come out and said multiple times throughout this process, especially Rob Manfred, saying they would like to keep all the broadcast teams that teams already have out there. So I don't think they're looking to make a lot of changes to that, at least not this year, because maybe in the future, who knows? But I think right now they're talking about not making a lot of waves that way.
The guys they've added, like for the future, if they want to do like more of kind of a central base, it's like Ellis Burks is known to a lot of franchises. He's a familiar face. Pat Tabler has worked for Toronto already. He's now working in Cleveland. They're helping kind of elevate profiles in a way. So that's why I brought that up.
Okay. And what's your explanation for Chris Gimenez? Nothing against Chris Gimenez.
There isn't. I mean, he could, maybe they view him as a potential, rising star, or maybe someone Cleveland liked. At some point, no, I mean, guys go forever. I still miss, when I lived in New York City, I would listen to Hegan and Hamilton, and I still miss Hegan, RIP. But guys will stay forever. So, yeah. I mean, Pat Corgan is, of course, I will carry that candle. But I think maybe they feel like he's someone to mold. Maybe they think he's going to be naturally really good in that role. He has popped up in a lot of interviews recently, so people do like talking to him. So maybe they just think he's a potential asset.
I know people really wanted Jason Kipnis. He did an inning in the booth there. I think he did a couple innings with Jim Rosenhaus in the spring.
I just don't know if he wants that.
Yeah, that was my thing. Was is he really going to commit to that? I don't know. I think maybe he was interested or not, and maybe the schedule right now is just not what he wants.
I also he doesn't live here. I think he's more of
does Chris Gimenez live here? Does Pat Tabler? I don't know. We got to find out. But Ellis Burks at one time did work for the front office. And I want to say he also worked for the Red Sox, and he might have been on their broadcast team as well. But I know at one time Ellis Burks was part of the front office, if he's not now. But he was with the Red Sox broadcast crew for a season or something. So I don't know. Interesting.
I think Kipnis is Chicago, right? So I think he may end up trying to do something closer to there. Again, thank you all for listening, rating, and reviewing. Make sure to check out Thursday's episode, because apparently you guys decided not to, guys and gals. So jump over. There's some great data in there. Just another shout out to John Sickles. He comes across really smart, and we are really missing him since he doesn't write about baseball anymore. It's a shame.
Yeah.
So make sure to check that out. Get to see when I talk about my two parents of prospects, the guys who raised me in prospects, it's Sickles, it's Callis. Those are the guys who got me started. So check that out from Thursday. Thank you all for being part of the Locked On Guardians team. We appreciate you all, and go Guardians go.